Hi everybody, it's Gemma. Welcome back to Pampered Wolf and welcome to 2019. I have had so much time off over the Christmas and New Year period. I am back, I am energized, I am ready to go. Now after the 2018 best of video that I did for you, I had so many comments and so many requests for me to do a full face of all the products that I featured in the best of 2018 video. There were so many people that said how nice my makeup looked in that video. Will you please recreate it so that we know how to do it? Well, I aim to please. So here we go. Okay, so I've already got my serums and my moisturizers on my face and I've given that time to settle in. So we're gonna go straight into eyeshadow because that's the order that I like to do things in. So we're gonna go for the Nude palette. This is Huda Beauty's Nude palette. I'm not going to go into prices and everything during this video. I did that all in the best of 2018 video. I will link that video up here for you if you are interested in watching that, if you haven't seen that already. And I will link everything in the description box below. So we're not going to go into how many shades everything comes in, what you actually get in the product, how much it is during this video. Everything will be linked in the description box, or you can just go and have a look at the best of 2018 video, which went live, I think, New Year's Eve. So let's get straight into the Huda Beauty Nude palette. I'm just gonna prime my eyelids before we do that. Okay, so we're gonna go straight into the Huda Beauty Nude palette. Let's go into the shade Secret, which is down here. I'm gonna use that as my transition shade. I'm gonna go in with a 228 brush by ZOEVA and just pat that on first. I'm not actually going to swipe it on. I'm just gonna pat that on at the edge and where the crease is, just for now. And then small circular movements just to blend that out. If you want to see the full review of the Huda Beauty Nude palette, I will also link that up here for you. So I just keep adding more product just to deepen the colour. This is still the same shade that I'm using. I just keep on adding a little bit more and then a little bit more. And just buffing that out. So to deepen the crease just a little bit more, I'm going to go into the shade Teddy. This is a very similar look to the look that I created, if not an identical look actually, to the look I created during the Huda Beauty review that I did on this product. And I'm just going to tap that on the outer edge and just a tiny bit in the crease just to darken that up and give it a little bit more dimension. So I'm going to take more of a flat brush. This is the 226 Smudger brush from ZOEVA. You can use your fingers for this if that's what you prefer to do. In fact, sometimes I think it's easier to use your finger if you don't need that precise line that a brush gives you. I'm just going to go into the concealer that's involved in this palette, which is a great idea. And I'm just going to pop that where I'd like any metallic shade. And I'm just patting that on rather than swiping it. You know, I don't like to drag anything, especially around the eye area. I much prefer just to pat that in place. Now, if you don't want the intenseness of the sparkly glitter, you could skip that step altogether. It's not necessary. In fact, sometimes I think it looks a little bit prettier when you don't have the concealer on your eyelids, because sometimes the concealer can make the glittery, chunky shade look a little bit chunky on the eyelid as well. And sometimes I like to avoid that, so I just put this shade on or one of the other glittery shades on without the concealer. But today I want a real colour pop, so I'm going to use it. The best way I feel to apply these particular shades is to use a fingertip. I mean, look at that. Look how gorgeous that is. And I'm just going to press that on the eyelid, and it really does stick to that concealer really, really well. You won't have any fallout. It will not budge throughout the day. Like I said, you can skip the concealer step. It'll just be a little bit less vibrant on the eyelid. and a little bit less chunky. So depending on the skin quality of your eyelid, depends on whether I would recommend using the concealer. And that is the finished eyelid. I get really fed up of a lot of YouTubers using every single shade in the palette to create their looks. They make it look far more difficult than is necessary. You can create a really beautiful eye look so simply with a great eyeshadow palette, and this is definitely one of those great palettes. I'm going to finish off the under eye a little bit later on, but let's move on to foundation. Okay, so the foundation that I used during the Best of 2018 video was the C.Y.O long lasting foundation. I absolutely adore this foundation, and for a cheap foundation, it's absolutely amazing, and it hasn't brought me out in spots. Now, I do have a few today, and that's from one, eating quite poorly over the Christmas period, and also I introduced a little bit more into my skincare regime, which did not agree with my skin, so I've removed that now. Nothing to do with this foundation. I usually put 2 full pumps on my hand. I never use 2 full pumps. It's a little bit wasteful, I know, but I never use the 2 full pumps, but I always use more than 1 pump. Just a little bit more than 1 pump. So I'm going to use the 103 Define Buffing Brush to apply this product. I'm not going to use a primer today. I think this particular foundation works really well without a primer. If you have really large pores, you perhaps are going to want to use maybe a mattifying primer or a pore filling primer. I'm not a big fan of those, so I'm going to go without today, but by all means, do what you've got to do. So I've applied the foundation to the back of my hand. You can apply it to a palette, and I'm just dabbing that on really quite sparingly on the skin. In my reviews early on in 2018, I used to apply the foundation to my face, and a lot of the time I applied far too much. And I think the best way to apply foundation is to apply it really sparingly, because you can add more, but you can never take away. So I find that this is the best way for me personally to apply my foundations. And I hardly apply any to my brush whatsoever. If you just have a look at that, the tiniest amount, and then I dab that all over and spread that out. I do prefer a brush to apply my foundations with rather than a beauty blender, because I feel like the coverage is better, but it's all down to personal preference. Now, this foundation does oxidize, and I do find it depends on what shade you actually go for, how much it oxidizes. And this one, the 103, which is my shade, does oxidize quite a bit. Doesn't bother me. I think it would bother me if this was a £35 foundation, but it's £7.50, so I try not to be mad at it at the end of the day. £7.50. Now, if you're wanting to know how this looks in natural lighting and how it wears throughout the day, I will link the actual review and wear test that I did on this foundation. It was actually, I think, at the beginning of December, so it's quite recent, the review, and I still believe in everything that I said in that video. It's just such a lovely foundation. I tried this out on my mum as well, and she also really likes it, so we're just waiting for it to become in stock in her shade, and she'll be getting it as well. So I'm definitely happy with the overall finish of this foundation. Let me show you how much product I've actually got left on my hand. Definitely 1 pump would have been enough. Maybe I just add far too much on my skin when I'm in a bit of a rush. Let me show you this. I have so much left on my skin. I think there's more than 1 pump left on here, and I have no tissues. Let me go and get a tissue. Okay, let's crack on. The concealer that I'm going to use today, well, I'm actually going to use 2 concealers. Please don't shout at me. The first one that I'm going to use is one that really has no business being in this video because I didn't review it in 2018. However, I did mention it in the best of 2018 video, so maybe a technicality, but I am going to use it today because it's a really, really good concealer. This is the MAC Prolongwear Concealer. This is in the shade NC20. I like to use this underneath the eyes because it dries down really, really quickly and it doesn't crease on me. And you need the tiniest amount. Now this, even though it dries down really quickly, does not dry my skin out. But if you have really dry skin under the eye area, then this would not be a product that I would recommend for you. Again, I'm just going to put a little bit on the back of my hand. Get my 142 concealer buffing brush, get the tiniest amount on the buffing brush and tap off the excess on the back of my hand. And I'm just gonna go in underneath the eye area. Now, as you can see, I'm hardly applying any product whatsoever. And I'm just tapping. No swiping, just tapping. It's full coverage with the tiniest amount. Now, I think that's absolutely fine the way that it is, even though you can still see a little bit of bluey tinge coming through, and you'll notice it more when I dip my head like that you can see a little bit in the bag area that there is still a little bit of blue. So for the purpose of this video, I am going to apply another concealer on top of this one because the concealer that I'm going to apply actually featured in my best of 2018 video, and that is the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Away Concealer. Now, I'm just going to apply this concealer as a brightening effect underneath the eye. So I'm actually going to use the shade 3, which is far too pale for my skin, so it will brighten the area a lot. This is probably 2 shades lighter than my skin tone. So I'm just going to dab that on. I'm not going all the way up to where the actual eyelashes are because I don't want to put too much product there because that's where I get my creasing. So I'm just going to apply a tiny bit of this more towards the darkness area and below, just to brighten up that area. Next, eyebrows. I'm going to use the Ultra Precise Brow Pencil from e.l.f. I absolutely adore e.l.f. I did a full face of e.l.f. not so long ago, and this featured in that video. I will link it up here for you. So super cheap and really quite ethical because these are cruelty free. So that just makes me feel better. So great product, and this is in the shade Cool Brown. And I'm just gonna go right at the front of my brows, such a light hand, and I'm just putting little minuscule, is that a word? Minuscule? Having an English language debate today. Let me know, is that an actual word? Minuscule? Minuscule. Quite like it if it is. I'm putting tiny hairs, anyway, tiny, we'll change the word. Tiny hairs. I'm not actually colouring in the area, I'm just filling that area out with more hairs. I just think that looks a lot more natural. So after I've done that, I'm just going to go and fill the rest of my brows in and make sure that they're shaped the way that I want them to be shaped. Just going to make sure that they're all combed and they're pointing in the right directions. So just make sure that all the hairs are lifted at the front and that they're going sideways on the side because that's how I like it. And then I'm just going to fill in using small little strokes on the underneath, and then as I get to the outside of my eye, I just like to more or less colour in the brow to make it a little bit darker. So here we go. So just tiny little strokes. So if you feel like you've gone a little bit overboard with an eyebrow pencil, if it's a good eyebrow pencil, you should be able to take your spoolie and just soften that off a little bit by just combing through the hairs and adding the tiniest bit of pressure. If it's a bad eyebrow pencil, sometimes the entire pencil pigment can come off at this stage, but if it's a good one, it just should soften it off gently. And that is definitely what happens when I spoolie through using this product. Okay, so I forgot to press the record button on the camera because I'm just super smart like that today. So I've already done the underneath of my eye using the Nude palette again. And I went into the shades that I've already done before. So I went into Secret and Teddy right on the outside. I'm really sorry that that is now not on camera. I'm so dozy today. I really am. Apologies there. Anyway, let's move on to liner. The liner of choice for me is the Superstay Liner by Wunder 2. Now, I've had a lot of comments since I did the best of 2018 video about this particular liner. It just does not work for some people. Now, not everything that I recommend is going to work on everybody, but please take my word for it that I would not recommend a product that didn't work on me personally. This is a great product and it never budges for me. Never budges. So I'm really sorry if you've been out and bought this product and found that it doesn't particularly work on your skin. Maybe it disappears or it transfers constantly. I have had quite a few people say that, so I just wanted to make you all aware of it, that I think you either love this liner or you hate it. It's going to be one or the other, but then I'm going to use a different liner altogether. I use this on loads of my videos and I'm not quite sure why I didn't include this in my top products of 2018, because I actually did do a review of this. This is the Stamp Liner by Lottie London. I mean, all the stuff, all the writing on it is rubbing off now because I use this so often. It's a really, really good chunky felt tip liner. If you want to see the full review, I will link it up here for you, but I'm just going to run across the top of the lashes from around about halfway across my eye down again. Then I'm just going to take a little bit more of the Wunder 2 liner and just pop that right on the outer edge, and the tiniest little bit goes a really long way, so I'm only probably doing a centimetre of it, and the same on the other side, just to add a little bit of darkness and depth. Just think it helps lift the outer corners just a little bit if you define that edge. And I'm going to go into the shade Teddy down here, and I'm just going to run over that and blend that in. So the bronzer that I actually liked in my best of 2018 video was from The Body Shop. Shock horror. I know. Shocked me too. But this is an excellent bronzer, especially if you have a pale complexion, because you can have this really natural looking or you can build it up to be a lot deeper on the skin. This is in the shade 03 and it's their medium matte bronzer. I'm just going to go in with a powder brush because I like to be a little bit less accurate when I'm doing bronzer. A little bit more accurate if I'm doing contour, but with bronzer I like to be a little bit less accurate, so I use a powder brush, and this is the 105 or 6 106 powder brush from ZOEVA. Just gonna very lightly go underneath the cheekbone. I suppose this can be classed as contouring it a little bit, but not too much. Now I could have used the concealer to cover up my breakouts and blemishes. I've chosen on purpose not to do that today. I don't want to put too much product on there, and I know a lot of people will cover their imperfections up to the nth degree, but I just don't think that does the imperfections any good. And I want them to go in the quickest possible time, so I'm trying not to stop them from breathing, as a lot of people say. Anyway, I don't want to cover them up too much because I want them to go. So onto blush, we're going to use another e.l.f. product. This is a great product. This is one of their duos. It's their Contour Bronzer Blusher Duo. This is in the shade Fiji. I can't remember how much this is, but it's so super cheap. Just going to take a blusher brush. Be very careful how much of this product you put on your brush because it is so pigmented you will get a little bit of a shock. And I know it's coming, and I still shock myself all the time. Gorgeous shade, absolutely stunning. We're going to move on to the eyelashes. So my favourite in 2018 was the Charlotte Tilbury Legendary Lashes Volume 2. I like everything about this mascara. It's really hydrating. It really does volumize the lashes. It also lengthens the lashes. Anyway, this really does look after your lashes and really hydrates them nicely. So as you can see, my lashes do look super long. They are really long. A lot of the time they touch my eyelids, which I find really exciting. I know it really upsets a lot of people when this happens to them, but I'm really excited because it's never happened to me before. Anyway, it's not all to do with the Charlotte Tilbury Legendary Lashes Volume 2, although some of it will be to do with this particular mascara, and I really like it. If you are interested in finding out how my lashes have become so long, then definitely stay tuned because there will be a video coming up in the very, very near future. But anyway, very exciting. So I've had so many comments about my makeup on the 2018 video. The most commented item was the lipstick. Now this is the Smashbox Always On liquid lipstick, and this is in the shade Babe Alert. It's so lovely. It's really natural. It shows up a little bit redder on camera than it actually is in person. This is a lot pinker in person, or it is in my opinion anyway. I absolutely love these lipsticks. They are great. They've got a great applicator. It just holds the right amount of product. It's flexible enough for you to be very accurate, but not too flexible that it goes everywhere. I like everything about this, apart from the fact that this can be a little bit drying, so you have to be very careful. Either put a lip topper on this or really look after your lips. And I will go into how I look after my lips on my skincare regime video, which will also be coming up in the very near future. I'm teasing you all a little bit today, aren't I? But anyway, I like to do the V first. Just to make sure that everything's even and doesn't look wonky. I find it quite difficult doing my lips because if you look closely, or maybe you don't need to look closely, I broke my nose so many times when I was younger. One quite nastily in a car accident when I was about 5 or 6. And my nose goes one way and my Cupid's bow goes the other way because everything's a little bit off center. So it can be a little bit of a struggle to get the lips looking even and identical on both sides because they're just not. They're not even and identical on both sides. So it does take me a little bit longer. So once I've got my outer edge and I'm happy with it, that's when I fill in the center. So just a quick warning with this particular product, the longer you have the top open, the quicker this product is going to dry out. So you don't really want any air circulating in this bottle for a long period of time because it won't last as long, it won't have as long a shelf life. And it definitely dries out on the application head the longer you have it out of the actual product container. So just to give you a quick heads up about that, it doesn't last a long period of time if you're not quick. And at the moment, because I'm just getting used to my new lip shape, I'm not fast, so I already know I'm going to go through a few of these this year. So that's the finished look using all of the products that featured in my best of 2018 video, apart from the Goldwell Kerasilk Reconstruct perfume, which any excuse to try some more of this stuff out because it's just divine. Anyway, I hope you've all found this video helpful in some way. Don't forget to subscribe to me if you haven't already. There is a watermark in this corner. If you click on it, it will take you through to my homepage where you can subscribe. Hope to see you all again soon. Bye!